to me? What was I supposed to do? You sucked my cock, you both fucking sucked my cock! It was free!
Wagwan! Seeing as how the 2020s are halfway done, I figured that now's as good a time as any to look back on the last 5 years of film releases and see what the decade's best films are. The list that follows is in no particular order, by the way, except maybe the last few, but all of these are as brilliant as each other. To clarify, there's a load of things I haven't seen during the 2020s, so if you're wondering why your favorite movie isn't on here, it's out of spite, and I fucking hate you. Say what you will about Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, but it's something that will likely never be made again. It's the brainchild of a very pretentious man who spent over $100 million of his own cash from his fucking wine empire. He threw just about any actor that has notoriety in this jumbled, fucked up mess. And visually, it's stunning, and it's a story that only the most stuck-up loony coot or a child could come up with. Witnessing this in a packed IMAX with George Miller is a memory I will forever cherish, and for that reason alone, I think it deserves a place in this list. In a similar vein to Francis, I think that Phil Tippett's Mad God is yet another example of a psychotic filmmaker that began laying the foundation for this monstrous experimental epic back when RoboCop 2 was still being produced. While working on Spielberg's Jurassic Park, Tippett shelved Mad God, but eventually went back to it a few years later, and now here we are. Mad God is a stop-motion film that is purely atmosphere. There's no dialogue besides a few garbled screeches throughout, but we immerse ourselves in this hellish world as we take a deep plunge into the brutal landscape of carnage that Tippett has created. It's amazing to look at, and the level of world building is inspiring for any young filmmaker. Now hold your horses before you start coming for my throat on this one. Let me cook, alright? Let me cook. The Wachowskis are some of my favorite filmmakers. I watched, for the first time in decades, their adaptation of Speed Racer last year, and it knocked my goddamn socks off. I also had recently finished the Matrix trilogy, and figured it was worth giving the fourth installment a go, and I was floored. This was quietly one of the best blockbusters to come out, and nobody went and saw it. There's VFX to boot and action choreography that has the same feel as the original trilogy. Keanu even had a pretty decent performance, but it's not as good as what he did in Knock Knock.
You both fucking suck my cock!
But what puts this on the list, in my opinion, is its meta-commentary on reboots and legacy sequels, going so far as to name-drop Warner Brothers in one of the dialogue exchanges. For me, that's what racks it up so highly, and Lana Wachowski's ability to take something so old but make it feel fresh and exciting. I covered a lot of points about why Adam Elliott's Memoir of a Snail is so good in my Best of 2024 video, so if you want to hear about that, you can check it out. To summarize, it's a dramedy about twins being separated, and while trying to find each other, they are forced to independently face their personal obstacles, made worse by having to deal with some scummy people that have entered their lives along the way. It took 10 years of work to bring this beautiful claymation to life, and Adam Elliott is one of Australia's most authentic voices when it comes to portraying mental illness. So if anyone deserves to be showered in praises, it's that guy, 100%. Originally, this was just going to make the honorable mentions category, but with David Lynch passing away at the start of 2025, I think it's fair to say that this has aged brilliantly. Specifically, the final scene. Spielberg's The Fabelmans is the autobiography of Mr. Spielberg himself, pulling back the curtains and getting vulnerable, showing to us in detail his upbringing and giving us a deeper look into his creative choices with some of his movies. In the last few years, directors have been making love letters to Hollywood, and to a degree, Spielberg has done the same thing, but this feels more like a love letter to the art of filmmaking altogether. It's an inspiring piece, showing the joy that comes with creation, but also the darkness that comes with it, and how detached you can become the deeper you get. Thomas Vinterberg's Another Round isn't breaking new ground or anything, but it is telling a mature story about alcoholism, and I just really like it. Mads Mikkelsen is a delight on screen along with the three co-leads, and to the movie's credit, alcoholism is portrayed relatively unbiased. While at the start it's portrayed in a light tone, with the four leads feeling euphoric, things take a drastic turn by the midpoint. I think the ending is what hits most for me, as Mads Mikkelsen dances with his students after his wife wishes to rekindle their relationship ship and he jumps off the pier in a moment of celebration, but the final frame can be interpreted as one of triumph or one of the alcoholic cycle continuing. It's fantastic storytelling and an easy thing to watch again. Park Chan-wook is one of the defining filmmakers still active today, and his feature Decision to Leave is one of his finest works. Going into this, I was expecting a dark mystery thriller crammed with violence, which is Chan-wook's usual recipe, but my jaw hit the floor with the emotional twists and turns that Decision to Leave took me on. So much so that immediately after watching it on streaming, I went and bought a physical copy so I can watch it whenever I want. It's a moving tale of a detective chasing after the wife of a deceased mountain climber as an infatuation, but also because of her connection to the case that he's working on. There's so much depth to this film and connections between the characters and the settings of the ocean and mountains, but that's a deep dive that I won't get into now. This movie is devastatingly beautiful and should be discussed more often. I, along with probably everyone else who watched Charlotte Wells' Aftersun, felt chewed up, spit out, then chewed and spat up about 10 more times once that final shot came up. Fucking hell. Aftersun is a touching and personal movie for the director, as it's based on her last memory with her own father, having gone on holiday and being completely unaware of the depression that her father was facing. It's dark and lonely at a lot of points, but the bond that Paul Mescal's character Callum and Frankie Corio's Sophie share is so powerful that the brightest moments for Callum come when he's with his daughter. It's a powerful movie with strong performances all around and a real story. Sean Baker is one of the modern day's best creatives, telling stories about eccentric people and casting those that he meets while at the groceries makes his creative voice so unique, and nothing gets more unique than his movie Red Rocket. Simon Rex slips into the sleazy asshole role all too well, portraying an ex-porn star that's been ridiculed from the industry and moves back with his ex-wife and her mother, mooching off both of them, and then he meets a minor and tries to get her into the porn industry to start his career back up. Fucked up, right? And it is, but the story hooks you in as you watch this psychopathic dumbass as he tries to crawl his way back to his earliest stardom, only to get knocked back down over and over again. This movie isn't for everyone, but this struck me in ways that nothing else really has before or since. Nicolas Cage puts on an absolute show in Michael Sarnowski's Pig, and there wasn't an ounce of respect put on his name for it. Pig is the story of hermit Rob Feld, who was once a famous chef, who bonds with his truffle pig, but when she is taken away, Rob lusts for revenge. Sarnowski portrays this revenge story in a quieter fashion than a usual revenge flick, like The Northman, for example. We're instead subject to a meditation of love, loss, and the refusal to move on from somebody that you've lost. It's an emotional journey that makes you feel empty inside by the end, but also pushes you to keep going for the ones that have been taken away from your life. Miyazaki hangs up his cape in his supposed final feature, The Boy and the Heron, and really, it'd be nearly impossible to top something as beautifully profound as this. Watching this on the big screen was mesmerizing. Nobody does animation as bizarre and colourful as Miyazaki, with themes of generational trauma, touching on his own worries of passing the torch over to the younger generations, and displaying it most notably through the protagonist and the wizard. Don't worry, Mr. Miyazaki, I would also be worried about passing the torch over to the guy who made Earwig and the Witch. Enjoy retirement, man. This is 2024's biggest release in terms of sci-fi world building, and it got practically zero award recognition. Denis Villeneuve shows off his directing prowess, and Timothée Chalamet's booming presence cements him as one of Hollywood's best actors. As time goes on and the third Dune movie comes out, Denis' Dune trilogy will definitely be held at the same standard as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. George Miller's Furiosa is one of the best movies I've ever seen, hands down. This runs laps around Fury Road from all angles, and Dr. George knows exactly how to make the moving image captivating and interesting, putting nothing but sheer nonsense on the screen, and it fucking rocks. Both leads, Chris Hemsworth and Anya Taylor-Joy, pull out a show-stopping performance that should be way more involved in this decade's best performance discussions, and even watching it at home hits like goddamn crack. This is textbook filmmaking right here. Darius Marder's Sound of Metal is a silent reflection to appreciate life and things you can learn from people who come from different walks of life. It's a film I've only seen once back in early 2023, but it has stuck with me over 2 years later, and it's such a profound piece, with one of the most poignant final shots of the decade. Riz Ahmed is captivating, and seeing his character develop from loud and hostile to an understanding person willing to let people help him was beautiful to witness. A simple story, affectingly performed, flawlessly shot, that knows when to be quiet and just let the audience sit and be drawn in. It's exactly what you sign up for. This was always going to be on here. Chris Nolan blew everybody away with Oppenheimer. It's a magnificent feat in filmmaking. From the meaning behind the black and white scenes, to the procedural elements that take place after the atom bomb goes off, there's so many factors that are at play that makes this the ginormous epic that it is. Even down to the stacked cast, from Cillian Murphy to Roderick, you've got basically everyone in it. The first time I watched this, there was so many moments that had me completely locked in. The build up to the Trinity test is definitely one of Nolan's greatest accomplishments, and he deserves a big pat on the back. Lee Isaac Chung moved me with Minari in ways that I've never been moved before, and I'm just going to jump straight to the meat and potatoes of what caught me the first and second time I watched this. That whimsical score, it's like you're in a daydream, and I'm sure everyone that's heard Jacob and the Stone can agree. One of 2020's best in terms of music, but also storytelling. This entire family is just so nice to watch, particularly anything involving Steven Yeun and Yoon Ye-jung, both laying out spectacular performances, and Steven Yeun once again proves that he's the master of subtlety to voice his emotions. I'm a mess anytime I watch this movie. Nope is Jordan Peele's magnum opus, and I'll fight anyone who disagrees. It serves as both a Western sci-fi horror mega blend, along with a sharp commentary on how we're so quick to immortalize traumatic moments and to, as the movie puts it best, make it a spectacle. A lot of people I've spoken to about this movie find the opening scene or anything referencing Gordy the Chimp out of place, but in reality, it's the key to all of it. Peele continues to be one of the most unique voices in the horror genre, and if he keeps pumping stuff out like Nope and Get Out, he's on track to be one of Hollywood's best movie makers. Scorsese is one of the few filmmakers that has just gotten better and better as the years progress. His latest feature, Killers of the Flower Moon, was my favourite release to come from 2023, containing some utterly disgusting non-fiction events that happened to the Osage tribe in the 1920s. The ending, featuring Martin Scorsese himself, is so guttural, pulling back the veil of true crime stories that so many listen to, and remind everyone that these are real people suffering, something that a lot of listeners need a reminder of. Lily Gladstone was fantastic in this role, showing a great range of despair, horror, and eventual defeat as the film continues on. It also contains one of Leo's best performances, but that's a discussion for another time. The warmest movie on this list is going to have to be given to The Holdovers by Alexander Payne. It's like sitting in front of a fireplace while wrapped in a nice blanket with Ned Flanders' cup of cocoa from the Simpsons movie. While there's so much to praise about this film, the characters are what I connected with the most. Each of them different but similar in the ways of loneliness, but find a connection amongst themselves. Paul Giamatti is truly brilliant. Dave Joy Randolph deserved every piece of that Academy Award, and Dominic Sessa, wow, what a screen debut. One of the decade's most inviting films with a calming soundtrack that never fails to get the waterworks going, and an all-timer for a Christmas flick. Before dropping what the number one spot is, I think it'd be rude if I didn't at least drop some honorable mentions first. So some other good releases from the year that didn't quite crack the top 20 include The Batman, Titan, Top Gun Maverick, The Substance, Avatar, The Way of Water, The Father, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, RRR, The Brutalist, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Iron Claw, Babylon, Past Lives, and Blackberry. Oh, and Red One. But the first place goes to... To me, Banshees of Inisherin by the masterful Martin McDonagh, it It's very special. It's one of the few movies I've taken my mum out to go and watch that I enjoyed. Typically, I'd go with her if she found something interesting, such as The King's Speech or Wicked, but she was moved by Banshees. So much so that she's put it in her top 10 movies of all time, so I see this as an absolute win. This masterpiece touches on the topics of existential angst, shown through Brendan Gleeson's character, and uses the cyclical nature of human conflict and violence as the centerpiece and backdrop, of course correlating between the Irish Civil War and the fallout between Colm Doherty and Pádraig Salaban. The cinematography brilliantly captures the mundane surroundings of these weird characters, with the music adding to the leisurely pace of it all, and there's not one bad performance in here, with Kerry Condon being robbed of a Best Supporting Actress win if you ask me. Fucking Jamie Lee fucking Curtis.
I'm gonna get you!
A flawless movie nonetheless, and definitely deserving of the crown for the decade's best. At least for right now. But that's just my 2 cents. What do you think are the best movies of the decade so far? Let me know your favorites, or if you think there's something I inevitably missed. Give me those sweet, sweet, sweet opinions. Also, only 0.5% of the people that watch are actually subscribed, which is absolutely ludicrous. So I help a brother out. It'd be greatly appreciated. I'll give you a Tesla or something. Mr. Beast style.